Hey everyone, welcome to GMIHub Online. So glad you're here to join us today. Got a question for you. How do you determine how much you're worth as an artist if you're asked to do live
Mm.
performances? Well, tonight we're going to be talking about it. But before we go into all the details related to that, I want to introduce who I am. I'm Cheryl Dewick, one of your hosts, and the other host is Dale Borland. Dale, where are you?
Hello there, Cheryl. Thank you so much. I'm so excited about this conversation. We're going to talk about this. It's going to be amazing. Incredible panelists coming up. But before we get to those, I want to let you know thank you so much for watching us, GMI Hub, online here on YouTube. If this is your first time watching, please feel free to hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you'll know the next time we upload a video. And give us that thumbs up like. We'd love for you to do that. Make us feel appreciated. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you so much. Also, really important, gmihub.ca. That's our website, gmihub.ca. Now, there's lots of stuff to look at. Check it out for yourself. Every month we send out a newsletter, and that newsletter could be sent your way if you give us your email. You have to go on to the gmihub.ca and let us know your email, and we'll send you the Hub happenings. It's absolutely free every month. And if you're an artist, producer, or someone who's doing an event, you got a song or something you're releasing, and you want us to know about it, and guess what? We can help you with that. We'll put it in our Hub Happening. That's right. So join us on Hub Happening at gmihub.ca. Thank you so much. Let's get to our conversation, shall we?
Joining us tonight, we have four panelists again. I'm so excited. We have four
Yeah.
panelists. Two of them are going to respond to us from a booking agent perspective, two from an artist perspective. So this is going to be really cool. And I think all of them have been with us as panelists before. So first, I'm going to introduce Nicole Rochefort. Rochefort, sorry, Nicole. She is the owner and founder of AIM Booking Agency. AIM, which stands for Artists in Motion, is an award-winning, internationally known booking agency which represents a diverse roster of talent. The core focus of AIM is to build artists' touring careers across Canadian markets and create growing audiences for sustainable long-term success. Nicole, thank you so much for rejoining us again. You were with us at the very beginning before we went online, so we're so glad to have you online today.
Hello, nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me back.
Yes, it's so wonderful. And returning again is Glenn Dumontel. Now, Glenn was here a couple weeks ago. He is, if you remember correctly, he is our music career coach. However, he has a history of being a booking agent as well. Pre-COVID, he was running Freedom Bound Booking Agency, and through that agency, he was able to work with artists like The Color, High Valley, Adam Crab, West of Here. There's more that I could list, but Glenn, we're so glad to have you back with us.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Awesome. Next down the line, we have Kevin Adams. Now, Kevin was here last week talking about the family, but when we told him about this conversation, he says, I'm in. I can so do this. So here, Kevin is back. If you remember, Kevin Adams is, him and his wife run the Kevin Adams and the Voices of Praise, or KAVP. They've been, they're nominated for a couple of awards, actually, the Texas Gospel Music Excellence Awards in both 2021 and 2022 for Best International Group or Duo of the Year. They also have an album. They have several albums, but one of their albums, For the Kingdom, was recently nominated for the Juno Awards 2022 Contemporary Christian Gospel Album of the Year. I want to welcome Kevin Adams back.
Yay.
Hey, everybody.
We need to have an audience. Yay,
Yay.
so glad to have you back.
Yeah, no, maybe
And last but not least is our favorite crooner of all, Andrew Martin. He is back. He's a multi-award winning contemporary crooning artist. Pre-COVID, he was doing 200 shows per year. He is now he's planning some other shows, I think. He's taking a rest a little bit because of COVID, but he's planning a few more shows. And we're so glad to have him joining us. Andrew, say hello.
Hey, it's great to be with you, Cheryl, Dale, Nicole, Glenn, Kevin, and the cast of the Brady Bunch, the Waltons. I mean, there's a lot of people here. It's like I feel like
right.
we're on like that Planet of the Stars type thing. Everybody's got the little corner that they're in, and we're gonna hear, "Here's the story of a lovely lady,"
That's
but
right.
we're not.
Exactly. Well, you have to have three more, then we really be the Brady Bunch.
We would.
That's right.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so go ahead. Dale, are you going to say something?
Yeah, as to say that, maybe the best place to start is to make people understand that we have value in the work that we do as artists. There's the question is, how much value do you put in yourself? Then when it comes to the respective performances that you do, there's also this value that's placed upon you, upon the producer or the booking agent, wherever, or the venue that you're going to. So an artist performance, especially a gospel artist, how do you, and why is it important to place value on that? So maybe we should start off with ladies first. Let's try Nicole. Could you help us with why would there be a need to set up, and anybody can jump in at any time, but I just want to start off with Nicole here. Why would there be a need to set a value on a performance?
Well, I think a big part of performing is giving, right? That's why everyone does it. They do it because they want to give. But you can only give so much, because if you start pursuing that career, or you start pursuing opportunities that allow you to give to people every weekend or a couple times a month, at some point you got to get something back. And applause just doesn't pay the rent. It doesn't put food on the table. And so for anyone who is performing and going out on the road in more of that professional environment, rather than just a hobbyist, you really do have to get into a bit of a business mind frame and realize that you're providing a professional service, and in exchange, you expect some professional compensation, aka money. Because again, like the applause, the praise, that's all really great, but that isn't going to pay you to get to your next gig. And so this is where it goes from having a talent, sharing a talent, and then taking that talent and creating a little bit of a business starts kind of picking up when you start putting a fee to your talent. So, I think artists who are looking to pursue this, and again, that more professional setting or more that business setting, need to get a little comfortable or get used to, having a value to their talent. And when I say value, I am talking about that financial dollar sign.
Right. So what about you, Kevin? What's your thoughts on that?
I totally agree. I've had many experiences in this area when it comes to booking, and had to do a lot of stuff for free. And it's required that I have a full band and full vocals and a sound engineer and everything. And you might get some food afterwards. And so when you request, when you have a booking fee or performance fee, it's kind of like, it's a lot to dive into. I guess as we go along, we'll dive into more, but I totally agree.
Yeah, very good. And what about you, Glenn? From a different perspective, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, from a booking perspective, I think that's one thing that as Christian artists, often there's that struggle between, am I doing it for the ministry side of it or the business side, or that mix between the two? And I think Nicole made a good point. I think it's hard sometimes for Christian artists I think they sometimes feel guilty asking for money. And yet they're doing the same sort of thing as secular artists in becoming who they are and putting the energy and the time into it and buying the equipment. So no reason why they shouldn't operate similar in creating value for them for their performances.
I've heard people who are trying to book artists to come in that actually said, "Well, you're doing it for Jesus; it should be free." So that's where I grit my teeth and I'm saying that's not fair. That's just not fair. But okay, Andrew, what's your perspective on this?
I've never had a problem charging somebody money for me to sing. That's straightforward. I mean, I don't know how else to say it than that. It's a job. I mean,
I need to meet you, man.
no, I mean, it's what we do. I mean, everybody here, whether you're the booking agent or whether you're the talent, if you're the booking agent and you're the talent going to the booking agent saying, get me gigs, well, you got to expect to pay that gentleman or lady the money for getting you the gig because they've worked their behind off to get you out there, and vice versa. I mean, you have to watch your bottom line. I always say business first. If you're talking Christian music, business first, ministry second. Ministry happens what you're doing on the stage, what you do from the time you do your first song to your last song. That's your ministry time. When you step off the stage, you're back to being business. And if you don't treat it correctly, like any business, you'll be out of business.
Ooh, I love that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was going to
unfortunately, we get a lot of. Sorry, unfortunately, we get a lot of instances where people will expect to have the ministry start as soon as you walk in the building, and I'm okay with that, to be honest. But I guess the mindset is, you know, I agree with Andrew so much. It's so hard to I guess it's because there's certain people that are in a perspective of, well, my ministry starts when I walk in the building, but some people are saying, no, when I start to do my show, that's when the ministry. But everything so how do you balance that? How do you make that work in a healthy way?
For me, it was always on the aspect of I knew what I was there to do. I remember a couple when I would do gospel shows, pastors would come up to me and say, I want to tell you what's going on in my church, so maybe you could do a few songs that might minister to some people in specific needs. And I would tell them, please don't handcuff me because you're taking all the spontaneity and whatever God would inspire me to do away from it if I'm just doing what man tells me to do. But that's a whole different show. So for me, I mean, yes, when you walk off the bus, yes, you start ministry the minute you walk off and you first say hello and you shake a hand, or business with a promoter the minute you step off that bus. You have to be professional and know you're not getting paid for that time. But at the same moment, you know, this part of your business, you have to rep yourself. You have to rep your brand in a way that you would want it to be represented, right? And remembered for.
And I just want to play off of something that Andrew just mentioned. So when I tour artists and they have to drive 3 hours to a show, and then they get there and they have to set it up, and then they sound check, and then they have to wait 3 hours before they go on stage, and then they're on stage for 90 minutes, and then an hour maybe after meeting and greeting fans, you're now looking at, you know, a 10-hour day. And so when I ask for an artist fee, it's not just that 90 minutes of performance. It's accounting for that whole business day that they had invested to be able to do 90 minutes on stage. And the other part of, you know, having that artist fee or that asking fee, some people wake up with a God-given talent, right, to sing. Then there are many people who actually have to go get lessons and training, and not just for 1 year, but often throughout their professional lives, certainly as they're learning how to sing. And so when you are paying an artist, or if you're an artist asking for money, we need to not look at it in the, oh, I'm getting paid for this one day or this 1 hour. You really do have to kind of create that self-worth and value that I am being compensated for the efforts that I have put in from beginning and to this day that I have right now where I'm performing. It's never
Nicole,
about
I love this
single performance, right?
This is so
need to
good.
Start acknowledging artists as the business people that they are, and that involves the training, but it really starts from within, right? So charity starts at home, and you do have to look at yourself first and say, I need to put a value on the time, effort, practice, intentions, determination, rejection, all the things that an artist goes through before they actually get to show up and share. And so really that's kind of where I would encourage anyone watching right now who's an artist is don't discount the years and hours that you have spent on this craft, right? Before you even step onto the professional stage and asking for payment, start recognizing and maybe even logging the time that you spent on this, because you're going to realize like that time adds up. And anyone else in business would say, well, time equals money, right? We don't question our dentist when they charge us a certain amount for a cleaning. You know, we don't question hotel when they charge us a certain amount, you know, to stay for 3 days. Like we pay for services, we pay for experiences, and someone performing is providing you an experience and a service.
Well,
Can
and
somebody
all the
give us an
people
amen
said,
on that one? Yeah, amen.
Amen.
You know, it makes,
That was
if I could just add to what, if I
Okay,
could just
go
add to
ahead,
what
Andrew.
Nicole was saying.
Oh, go ahead, Glenn. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, I think it really makes a difference when you have a booking agent doing that opposed to the artist doing that. Like when a lot of artists will undersell themselves because they, you know, they're making that initial phone call. They're the ones that's showing up. They're the ones that are taking the feedback. I think the booking agents, I think part of our role is to take care of a lot of that stuff in advance. So when the artist gets there, all they need to do is worry about the show, and that everything, whether it's food, lodging, whatever is going to be provided, green room, whatever. I think that's huge. Now, not everybody can afford to have a booking agent, but I think that's the value in a booking agency, is that they're doing a lot of that groundwork, and hopefully everything is checked off before the artist gets there. And if there's an issue with something, call me, you know, let the booking agent deal with it. But right, Nicole? And you don't want those calls, right? You hope you got everything checked off before.
I love when things go according to plan, but you know, no matter what type of music you perform or genre you're in, it's kind of always rock and roll on show day, which means anything can
Yeah.
happen. But yeah, I mean, the booking agent is, you know, I don't want to focus too much on like what we do as booking agents, but you know, we are that kind of that buffer, right? We're having maybe what some people would consider challenging conversations or uncomfortable conversations. We're really in business mode, and so you know, we kind of cut to just like the black and white details of things, which as an artist can be really intimidating, because often I think artists see buyers or the person who's paying for them in places of authority. And I'm sure if someone's coming in and working through ministry, it could be something similar. And so you're sometimes a little hesitant to be asking for things because you don't know what you can ask for and you don't know what's okay. One trick I have seen more than one artist use when they're self-represented is to come up with an alias. So often you have your, you know, your God-given name, and then you have a stage name or performance name that you go by. Well, why not have a business name? And so if you want to create a little distance between yourself as the performer, the person who shows up for the gig, and the person who books for you, which is still you, you can come up with a different business name. So I've had people use, you know, their mother's maiden name for that with maybe just an initial, but you kind of assume a different persona, a role, right? It's not to be by any means like lying or deceiving. I want to make that very clear, but it's a little bit of this like, I'm going to step into a role and I'm going to negotiate or have these conversations using a business name that may or may not be the same as my performance name. Some performers need to get into character before they get on stage. And I've also found that some people need to get into character before they can conduct business. So again, like not to be duping anyone or encouraging people to go out there and lie. But again, it's one of those tactics until you can kind of get the courage to do it maybe as yourself. There's nothing wrong with kind of coming up with like management at or the management team, or, you know, come up with a tactic that's going to help you negotiate and do the business if you feel like you can't do that as the artist.
Well, that's funny that you would say that, because my first inclination was, especially for a startup artist, was if you have a friend of yours who really supports what you're doing, they would be the best person who knows you best to make those phone calls, the initial conversations. So there's something that you could also give them some cash if you have it, but it's something for people who don't have a lot of resources. That's something to think about as well.
So my question now is,
to keep in mind that in the Christian music industry in Canada, there are not a lot of full-time Christian booking agents. The United States have got 3 or 4 big ones, but in Canada we don't have that sort of thing. So, I'm sure Nicole and I are in a place where we want to encourage those people that want to go that way, but they're not going to become millionaires in that industry, especially in Canada. But, that's, if you're going to bring a friend on to be your booking agent, you want them to have an understanding of what the industry is about and what they're doing also, rather than just having Joe Buddy come in to help you out, right?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I was going to say one other little caveat to this is the fact that sometimes when you're talking to people and you're self-representing yourself, you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. The genre that you do is not necessarily going to be the genre that sells in that venue, whatever that venue may be. And you can't take it personally. You can't look at this and say, okay, they don't like me. No, they don't like A, maybe the style of music I'm doing, or B, maybe they're oversaturated in that market. And there's nothing to say that you're not good enough. Just find the next market. Just make your next phone call and move on. That's all.
I think that's important to take in. Try to be as callous as necessary. It's in the arts industry. It's like that when it comes to acting and singing, and don't take it personally, because people sometimes are not looking for what you have. That's all. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Cheryl,
how do you deal with I'm thinking about how when people hear the pricing, right? How are they perceiving it? How are event planners and event producers and even churches, how are they perceiving your rate? If they're accepting it, that's awesome. If they're not, how do you respond?
I think Nicole explained it really.
Question.
Yeah.
What's that?
Just saying, who wants to take this really light question?
But maybe what I should do. Here's what I want to do. I'm gonna everybody think about it. We're gonna go to commercial, and when we come back, we're gonna deal with this question, because I think there's something we need to think about before we speak. Okay, let's go to this commercial.
Are you writing a Christmas song? Do you want it on our Christmas CD? This year, send us your song for your chance on the CD. Submission deadline July 31st, 2022. Family Christmas Volume 3. Christmas 2022.
And we're back with a nice light question about...
Yeah, let's jump in.
About a nice light question about how do event producers, event planners, even churches and other venues, how do they respond? How have you typically heard them respond to the pricing that's given? And if there's objection, how do you deal with the objections? So first part, how do the people respond?
Andrew, this is all you.
You want to go?
It's all. I'll take that. I mean, honestly.
Well, no, Kevin. Wait. Kevin had a laugh there. He reacted with a laugh. I want to know what was behind that. I want to know what's behind that laugh.
Some of them are shocked, actually, with our prices, and it's not in the budget and so forth. And I'm just there, and I break it down to them. I have, Voice of Praise is usually 9 background singers. Like I have like a chorale behind me, and then I have like a 5-piece band. And as I said before, sometimes we have an engineer. So everybody has to be compensated, including our manager as well, right? The manager did work. They have to take into account that there's rehearsals and everybody has to drive, and there's so many things that are factoring in. And so when we give a price, it's like, oh, uh, can you do it for this much though? And then it's and then it's like, are you looking at what you're asking for? And they want maximum production. They want full production. They want it full scale, but they want to give you a little bit, if you understand what I'm saying, right? And it's like,
below scale.
how does that help?
Below scale. Yeah. Okay,
So
Andrew,
what
you're going to say.
music comes in for you?
When they have issues with the dollar figure, I mean, it goes back to it's not, you're not everybody's cup of tea. Not every venue is the right venue for you either. And sometimes I've suggested other artists that I've worked with that I know what their rates are. I will suggest them off. And then if they really want you as an artist, they'll find a way to get around it. They'll say, okay, well, we'll do this or we'll do that, or I can work with 2 other venues. If it's a church thing, we'll have 2 churches come together. Hey, we can afford to bring you in. So there is other ways to get around it. Like Kevin said, when they ask for the cheaper option, you can always say, yes, I have a cardboard cutout of myself and you can play my CD. And I will take that $200. Just an idea.
Well, you know what, Andrew, you hit a point. You hit a point there, because we did that. We did a tour. We did a tour like that kind of thing, where you have I would be like the full set. We bring our whole deal, or it was just me, and that was based on the pricing that they were able to afford. So there are options if you're a musician and you don't have a full band, or maybe you have a full band, but if someone can't afford it, you can say, well, I can come with tracks, and there's all those options that may not work for everybody. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that every artist should do this, but I think there's some artists that maybe this is an option. That you say, you know what, I don't have to bring my band. I'll just bring a track, and we can do it for a little bit less.
Or you could be Ed Sheeran and just go to the big arena and just do an acoustic set.
Yeah.
Anyways, just guitar. Like, talk about making money on that tour.
I know, he's killing it.
Smart boy.
True.
So here's one objection that I kind of heard. Okay, so an artist would say, I don't know, give me a price. I'm $5,000 or something like that, and the event producer, I guess, would say, okay, I have no problem paying your $5,000. Can you guarantee that if I have people paying $50 a ticket, that you can put 100 people in those seats if they're paying $50 a ticket? Can you guarantee, that kind of thing? So I've heard that as well. I don't know, Nicole, have you heard that kind of thing? And or Glenn, and from the booking side, have you heard it? How did you deal with that kind of thing?
So,
yeah.
Okay, so there's a couple of different formulas you can look at when you're trying to determine your asking fee, or when someone is determining your show worth. So in the case that you just brought up, Cheryl, what they're doing is they're saying, $50, 100 people equals $5,000, right? So they're trying to determine what it's going to cost in terms of ticket sales. That's a real thing. Like, that happens across the performance industry. And that is often what people will use when calculating what type of offer amount or artist fee or compensation can be given. So if you are working with, just to keep numbers really, really simple, if you are working with a 100-seat venue and you are only able to do a $5 ticket price, right? That means the most amount of money your show can bring in is $500. Mm-hmm. Chances are you're not going to pay an artist $700 because your concert can only make $500. So a buyer might say, well, the most amount of money I can make from my concert is $500. So I'm going to offer the artist $250, right? Again, we're using really simple numbers here. As the artist, that might sound great to you. Maybe to date, you're getting $200, so $250 is awesome, right? So there's a bit of there's a numbers game in there because your artist fee is being based on how well a show could do in general. I might sell a show and ask a buyer for $1,000. Now, that buyer is going to assume that the artist has some ticket value and that people will come to the show, and ultimately that fee will be paid off through ticket sales. They're allowed to do that because they can't go broke on these shows, right? They have to make money or at least break even for their business to work. And so when someone says, I will pay you $5,000, I would be happy to hear that first and foremost, but I would probably have a hard time agreeing to take that money for my client if I knew my client couldn't sell 100 tickets at $50, right? So there's where there's some honesty and some transparency and fairness is necessary in this. Now, there's the artist demand and their talent, right? Where people will buy the ticket to see them. There's also the responsibility of the buyer or the promoter of the show to sell tickets. And I think sometimes we think we'll just pay an artist to show up and everything will work out. And it really does take a collaborative effort for shows to sell. So you would want the artist to promote the show and sell tickets to their fans. And the artist would also be expecting the promoter or the buyer of the show to also be promoting and selling tickets, right? Reaching to their local community, to their audience, to their parishioners, whomever that is, right? It's everyone's responsibility for the show to succeed. And not just, I paid you, you sell the tickets, right? And so that can be a bit of a dangerous situation. And if someone was being offered a lot of money under those circumstances, I would really hope that they were confident and that if they said yes and took the date and essentially took the money, that they would feel obligated to then be able to deliver on those tickets. So you have to say, is that my market value? Is that my worth? Can I sell tickets at $50? Can I sell 100 of them at $50? Right? Because your friends and family aren't paying $50 to see you. That's not going to happen. So you got to go outside of the sacred friends and family zone once you start hitting that $50 ticket mark.
Yeah.
So if I can respond to that.
Yes, Glenn.
I've never been comfortable with those kind of agreements because what it does, it puts pressure on the artist, and the artist is meant to be there to provide the music. So if they're having to swing this side deal and have the pressure to fill the chairs, it depends on the venue that you're at. It depends on the artist. If you're a quality artist, people are going to want to come and hear you and see you. If the venue or the church or whatever it is putting that kind of pressure on you, I think I'd take a second guess as to whether that's really a good venue for me to be putting my artist in. I think somewhere along the line, we have to be able to say no and to put our foot down. And because we're in the Christian side of music, I think we got to be really careful not to be pushed around also, because we have to stand up for the gifts. I mean, we have the artists that we're working for have the gifts that God has given them, and I think we need to support them on that. So I'm not really big on those. I know as booking agents, we're nervous by those kind of things because they really put added pressure from multiple directions. And I think it can really, it can be distracting to the artist, especially if the artist is the one that's trying to negotiate that and having to fill 100 seats. I mean, man, you got to focus on your show.
I think that what you just hit there is totally, that's my knee-jerk question. Is like, well, why are you putting it on the artist? That I would totally agree with you on that.
Andrew and Kevin, have you ever had to deal with that kind of an objection of any sort?
Yeah, just before COVID, we asked for a price, and the promoter asked me, "Well, if you can sell this much tickets, if you can guarantee that this much tickets are sold, then I'll give you that price." So I've heard that before, and I was like, "Okay, so." And they're just marketing the event on social media, really. And it's like, so we have to push in order to get that. I found it like that's more work on top of everything else and preparing for it. And like that's extra stress. Like, and then we can give a show. We give a show. So it's like we're gonna deliver. Like, you're the promoter, right? I've heard it before, and I was just like, okay.
I take it that was a no, or COVID. You're thanking God that COVID hit so that nothing would happen anyway, right?
Yeah, and that's what happened. COVID hit, and it was just like, okay, we're just nothing really came about.
So Andrew,
Yeah.
what's
I
your
think
thoughts on this?
there's this. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
No,
This is
no,
interesting.
no,
Andrew was
Go ahead, Nicole.
Oh, I was just
Somebody
gonna say, I
speak.
think there's like a really like things don't just happen. Like, like, oh, do the gig. Sure, I'll do the gig. Like, there really is an art and a talent to this business part of performance, right? So this is where you do have to engage in the conversations, and the more questions you ask, the more information you're going to have, and the better informed you can be to then make the decisions that you need to make to be successful. And so, it's important when someone says, "Oh, I really want you to perform," to ask those questions of, "Oh, would you like an appearance? Would you like us to come in during an event? Are you putting on a concert?" Right? Like, an appearance is different than a concert. Oh, yes, we're putting on a concert. Oh, okay. Have you put concerts on before? Is this something that you do regularly? Is this a concert series? Is this a fundraising event? Like, you really kind of have to suss out, what is the ask, and you're only going to understand this better and then be able to advocate for yourself better if you are able to ask a lot of questions about it. Because when someone tells me I want to put on a concert, one of my first questions to them is this going to be a ticketed show? And if it's a ticketed show, it's an entirely different framework that I need to follow as an agent. Because if someone says, no, it's non-ticketed, we just put on these concerts, then we can kind of play around. And then again, it's a different type of approach, right? So simply just asking those questions, you're going to be able to find out the information and then start kind of navigating your conversations, or we call them negotiations. But you got to have the details to be able to make a really well-informed decision that you're going to be comfortable with, especially if you're the leader of a group and then you've got 9 other people behind you or 15 other people behind you, right? Like, you're gonna have to speak for everybody, and so the more the better you're going to be able to do that.
Yeah. Very good.
And Nicole, correct. I mean, right there, by asking more questions, by finding out what they're doing, you might get away a little bit from people saying, okay, so you are X dollars. Can you put 100 people in the seats? Can you guarantee me that? I mean, my answer would be, well, if I can guarantee you 100 seats, I don't need you. I'll put the show on myself and maybe make more money. I mean, so why do I need the promoter if I can guarantee 100 seats? So what
Exactly.
I don't need
Exactly.
I know that sounds pretty hard, but that would be, well, now would be my response, but I'm older and jaded. But when I was younger,
Aren't we all?
If I want useless, I'll do a show with you. If I don't want useless, I'll help you do some. No, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to find out what you're doing. I mean, I would always book off so many shows in a year that I would do for charity that were free. So therefore, but that was a personal thing that I did. I have other artist friends that want to do charity events, but then they cut the rate into a quarter or a half, whatever it may be. But you limit the numbers. And when I reached my number, I didn't take any more charity gigs. And so when I would be asked, I would say, I'm full up for free charity events this year, but 2023 is open if you'd like to put something in there and book me now. That's other stuff that you can do, and there's other ways you can find it pricing wise. If you're in the middle of a tour, and you do happen to have that night off by some freak accident, because you should be booked up solid. But if it is off, and somebody's calling you a month out and saying, "Oh, can we have you because so and so just canceled," or whatever, maybe you would take a lesser amount because you are passing through, as opposed to, doing all the dollar figures to get there by the tour bus, airplane, whatever it might be, bicycle. Not too many people.
Or if it's a Monday, or if it's a Monday, Tuesday, right? If it's a Monday, Tuesday, which are the toughest 2 nights to book on a tour, you'll stretch yourself a little bit and give them a break in those dates. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's all these different situations, and Andrew, I'm glad you brought it up. Of like, again, this kind of goes back to the artist advocating for themselves. Like, okay, what am I willing to give away? Because just because you ask for a fee doesn't make you greedy, right? It doesn't mean that you always get a fee. It means that you're taking care of yourself, because you can't give it all away. At some point, you need to be like, got to fill the tank, We all know it's really costly to fill the tank these days too.
Yeah.
So, when you pick priorities, then you give yourself a really good baseline, and then maybe you give yourself permission to ask for money for other fees because you've allocated charitable opportunities on one side. There are lots of different ways to work it. I mean, again, like if you're on tour, you got that Monday or Tuesday, maybe you perform for free, but maybe you get hotel rooms and then the opportunity to sell your albums as compensation. Like, don't be afraid to be a little creative in how you're being compensated. Again, we can't pay the bills with, good tidings, best wishes. But, if there's an opportunity to be compensated, compensation can look like a lot of different things, so just, be open to that. It's not always about a dollar sign. It could be, we're going to compensate the rooms, we're going to compensate the flight. Again, there's other ways of being compensated. So I encourage everyone to just kind of be open to, what does that look like,
And something Nicole just said, you need the dollars to fill the tank. And the tank can be your vehicle, but you also have to look at your personal tank. And if you are constantly giving out, you're depleting your own personal tank.
Yeah.
And when your personal tank gets to empty, you ain't giving nothing. And so then you've just blown your wad for no reason at all. So you also have to refill your own tank. And that might mean looking at, okay, I have to set aside time so that I can recharge myself, however that might be. For me, it's the Caribbean, but that's a whole other story. But you have to find the ways to recharge your tank, and however that might be, do it. And you have to plan all that in as much as you do your finances.
Well said.
I think it's just I think it boils down to the fact that we're discussing Christian artists who have a tendency of maybe feeling that they have to be a little bit more giving, right, than maybe secular artists, and I think that I think that Christian artists have to realize that they just need to stand firm for what they believe in, and the gifts and talents that they've got, and to be able to put it out there, and to be okay with saying no to a venue or a church or whatever. You don't have to take them all, but
I know a lot of Christian artists who have money in their pockets. You don't have to look too far down into the country realm or even the rap and hip hop realm. It's okay to be a faith-based person and make money for your business. There are lots of examples of people doing it. And so, again, the more you get, the more you can give. And one thing I, try to let artists know is that, if you are going to be doing this, as a business, you really have to get your business head in the game. And, anyone who works in business will tell you, you need a plan, you need to take care of your overhead. You can be in business and not profit. That's called being a not-for-profit. right? But you have to make that decision for yourself rather than having people impose that on you. So again, you can go out there and maybe not necessarily profit from this, but maybe the goal is to simply break even. And that could be a strategy for someone who's right now not sure if they want to put a dollar sign or capitalize or commercialize their talent. That's okay. But what we're saying is, like, don't be taken advantage of either. You know, that's the really big point. And you know, I wouldn't want someone from the folk community putting pressure on a folkie saying, well, you should do this for free, folkie, because I'm a folkie and you're a folkie. So I don't want a Christian community telling another Christian, well, you should do this for free because you're a Christian. It's still wrong, right? Whether it's a folkie to a folkie or a Christian to a Christian, it's actually still not okay. So, you know, as much as I want to say, like, I don't want to skew it totally from a business standpoint, but I do want to give everyone that little, like, window of saying, you know, it's okay to ask for money and it's okay to be compensated for this talent. You decide how much you're going to profit, right? Like, that's up to you. Again, you can ask for money simply to break even and just, you know, be able to sustain your work. And you don't have to be greedy about it. So, you know, if anyone gives you a hard time and says you're being greedy, you just call me. I'll sort it out.
Love it.
I got your back.
Love it.
I got your back. I think part of it too. I think part of it too is educating. You know, within the Christian market, I think it's even educating. You know, maybe the venues and the churches to some degree. And we'll go back to what Nicole said right at the beginning: is there's nothing wrong with explaining your costs. I mean, your band members are giving up their day of work. There's travel costs. There's a lot of extra expenses. So there's nothing wrong with educating the venues and the Christian promoters and people that are bringing you in, because they think you're coming and they don't consider the fact that you've got expenses behind you. And so once that's explained to them in a nice way, I think sometimes what we used to do with a lot of the groups that we booked is that we would split our concert fee and add a travel fee. And they were actually getting a pretty good fee that way. But it seemed that, like, when we added the travel fee, they understood that, they do have to get to our venue and they have to get back. And it stretched the money that was coming in a little bit that way. But they had to, but you had to take time to explain that to them so they understood, because you know, we're giving out money that's coming from educating.
Right. You got to educate them. Yeah, Kevin mentioned that earlier when he was talking about the one thing about the many people that are with him, and how many families are affected by that because there's, you know, an entourage. So yeah, absolutely.
So let's summarize what people need to take. So from the artist, I'm going back now to the artist perspective. Try to determine a price. Okay, we've talked about a few things, but I'm kind of wanting to summarize it. If they're wanting to determine what price to give or to suggest if they're being asked to perform live or to tour, the things they need to take into consideration are who's asking, right? Where and have an understanding of what the venue is and what the ask really is. Is this for a free event? Is it for a ticketed event? And so forth. Now, the other things, there are a few other things, considering travel. I remember hearing that. Something that was sort of hinted at, but not fully said, I'm going to take from what Kevin was saying, which was when you have all your band and your singers and, as you say, your entourage behind you, you have to think of what they're charging for their time, right? And having to pay them as well. I think, Andrew, you can relate to that as well. You know, when you have your band that you're asking to come and be a part of your event, you're paying for their time, their talent, their practice, and so forth. So artists have costs too, right? Now, did I miss anything? I'm sure I'm missing some stuff here.
Lodging, food.
What else? What's that?
Lodging, food. lodging,
Yes.
food.
Yeah, we
It's
do
just
get hungry.
your travel costs. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when you're being asked to come to a specific spot, um, certain venues have paid more than others with me. If you're asking me to fly into Edmonton, Alberta to do a one-off gig, you're paying for the flights. If you want the full band there, you're paying for their flights. Very quickly, that all adds up because I'm not paying to fly my band there. I didn't ask to come to you. You asked me to come to you. So, there's a difference there. But when you're looking at the totality of a tour, for example, know how many shows you're going to do, know where they are. You can quickly figure out what lodging is going to be, what fuel is going to be, know what miles per gallon are going to be in your vehicle. Figure that out. Now you got your base price, know what your band's going to cost, and then you put on to feed your own family. And there's nothing wrong with any of that, like we've all said. And that's what it is. I mean, if they can't afford it or they don't want to afford it, then you move on to the next venue. There will be another venue.
And I also like what you said earlier, Andrew, that if an artist is faced with the objection that, oh, why is your price so high, and they have to explain, or you can explain it, and they say it's not in our budget, I like what your suggestion was as well. We can recommend some other people that could probably fit better, that will fit better in your budget. And of course, if they really want, they will probably work it out on their end if they really, really, really want you to be there. If it means collaborating with another venue to make sure you're there, or whatever the case may be. So I guess I'm saying that because Nicole?
Oh, I just want to say, and like you can also ask them for other opportunities. Oh, I'm really sorry it's not going to work out this time around, but please keep in mind if you have special events, or if you're working on a project that your entertainment budget will be a little bit higher. Please, like you don't have to say no and then disappear and go away. There are really lovely ways to say no. I love using the term, I have to respectfully decline this opportunity for the artist. Like, you don't have to necessarily explain why you can't make it work. Like, you can just say this is not going to work out at this time. I'd really love to be kept in mind for a future opportunity together, right? Or I'll connect with you the next time I'm coming around. Maybe we can make something work in the future. Just don't let that no be a shut door. Let that no be a moment of not right now. And, really like reach out and don't be shy to engage with them in the future, or encourage them to engage with you in the future too. So I think that's an important piece as we empower people to say no, empower people to ask for what they need, what they want, what they deserve. I also want to empower people to kind of hold on to some of that kindness and hold on to, the what I consider like the fair and the right way of doing business, which is making everyone feel good. Like that's really, really important, is still making someone feel good, even though it didn't work out. Having them walk away with a smile.
We're actually achieving a bridge opportunity there that's being built, and it would be something you can pick up later. Absolutely. So just before, Cheryl, I think you have one more question, but I was thinking to back up a little bit, talking about the evaluation of an artist is something that needs to be thought through for the artist. They have to think of, what are my expenses, what is the value put into this particular thing, my gear, my whatever. Those things, before you come to a position where you can set a budget for what you might request for you coming into a venue. So that's a bit of homework. But again, I don't think you need to do that alone. I think there's people in your life that will probably help you work out those numbers. But there's maybe somebody at home who's like, well, I've never really done that thing before. Well, this is a perfect opportunity to kind of dissect what you might need to do a show, and what your expectations are for being compensated. Now, there's others that go the extra mile. I know a friend of mine who's just started into performing, and his first show, he spent a lot of money, and he didn't expect to get it back, but because he wanted to do a good job. But he's learned that that's the way he wants to do, but he's also figuring out his budget. he figured out, because it was his first show, what he's going to kind of take. And I think that's a smart thing that other people are doing, and look and see how much did they spend? What did they put into that? And can I put a show on that is good as or better? And what would it take for me to do that? So those are considerations for an artist to take into consideration when you're going to do a concert event.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, there's lots of
variables. Starting out, people don't make big bucks when they're first starting out. They do have to prove themselves, right? So you may be starting out, and you might be really happy with just $50 a person, and you might be able to afford to do that as you start to kind of grow an audience or grow some more awareness in your community. And then you might get to a place where you're like, okay, we've got a little bit of a groove. Maybe we're going to ask for now $100 a person, and that's going to be okay. And then, you grow. It gets better, it gets better, it's better. And then, you can scale it up. But yeah, you do have to have that talent. You do have to have a bit of a proven track record before people are just going to start throwing like all those thousands at you, It's not to say you aren't worth it, but you do have to prove yourself because, the performing industry, it is, it's very oversaturated, right? And there's a lot of people who haven't had a chance to perform these last 2 years. And so everyone's out in the woodwork and trying to get that gig, So, it's time to be crafty, time to know your value, know your worth, and also be really business oriented around it.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of artists out there, you have two variables here. You have artists that maybe feel that they're worth thousands of dollars per concert. They really believe in themselves and they think they're worth all of this. And then there's others that way undersell themselves. It could be highly qualified and highly talented. And so there's that balance. And I think it was said earlier in the group, it's really relevant to bring people around you if you're an artist that's trying to figure out and develop that, like the Nicoles and people that are in the business, to be able to give some feedback and some suggestions and some guidance in that regard, without racing out and signing a label deal, without doing a little bit of research about who you are and what you're about, And I mean, it could talk to people that have been, in the business for a number of years, like Andrew and people like that can steer them,
Yeah.
Right, Andrew?
Very true.
I would tell them to run very fast. Go away. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
My business. I'm sorry.
That's because you want the gigs.
That's right. That's all. No.
But you got a good point there. I think mentorship is really important for artists because a lot of times they can feel like they're on their own, especially when they're just starting up. It's so hard because it's a really hard climb. And you put in a lot of money and time into doing maybe, like I just came out of the studio for my own personal work, and it's a lot of money and time. And you can sometimes feel like, oh, I'm so alone. Having artists like Andrew or people who are just kind of like or say, okay, here's what I did, or here's what you could do, and the mentorship's really important, and that's why GMIHub does what we do. We're here with you guys, and we're previous guests that we've had, and we want to equip those who are watching and value them and what they do. So, I mean, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
So, Dale, did you call me an old jaded fart? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, I did. I just said that.
I just want to clarify that. That's what I thought it was. But that's fine. I'm good with that. I'm going to put it on my business card now. But
the great thing is, though, you get people who are like, I've been in the industry for a while, but I haven't done anything personal. I haven't done a personal production, so that's new for me. So getting into that stuff, it's like somebody like yourself who's done, like your name is your brand. So it's like that's hard. Yeah. So I'm trying to negotiate that. So again, it's a whole different ball game.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
there's nothing wrong with asking for something and not getting it. So I will say one of the sales tactics that agents use is they will sometimes ask for 6,000, but be really happy if they got 4.
Right.
Again,
totally.
like that is a it's not just agents, everyone. Before we go hating on agents, it's kind of a standard sales thing. You ask for more than what you need. Kind of like, a kid doing their Christmas list. You probably don't need all of that, but you're still going to ask for it. So asking for more than what you need can be a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
Picking up some sales books. I mean, especially if you can find some sales books within the industry. There's a book that I used to recommend and I still recommend called How to Be Your Own Booking Agent. It's available online and on Amazon. So it's How to Be Your Own Booking Agent. It's written by a U.S. author. It's a little bit U.S. based in terms of some of the information that they have, but it really does kind of talk you step through step in terms of, okay, like here are some things to keep in mind and consider. May not be for that person who's just looking at doing like the coffee shop or maybe a small gathering, because it kind of has that the booking and the touring in mind from where it was written from. But don't be shy to check out different resources, check out different podcasts, check out different blogs, and most importantly, like talk to your circle, talk to other performing artists, because they know these things. I only know from an agent's point of view, but if you know a Christian artist who's going in and working in churches or working with community, go talk to them. I think like no one's an island unto themselves, and if you are surrounded by people who are doing it, don't be shy to ask to be invited. Like really take advantage of the network and the resources of the people around you right now.
Well, that's almost like what the GMIHub is trying to preach here: unity, community, mentorship, and talent growth. Yahoo! Love it.
Yeah, Nicole's correct. You can't ask for higher and then come down. I always start at $100,000. By the time we get down to $10,000, I'm 90% off. I mean, that's the deal right there. So why not? Like,
Oh, Andrew.
Just thought.
Boy, Andrew, I might come out of retirement and book for you, because I wouldn't mind 15% of that. Give me 15% of that right away.
Who wouldn't? All right. Oh, man.
Wow, this is like such a rich and awesome conversation. I hope that if you're watching this right now, that if you've been questioning what you should be charging for your talent, for your performance, or if you've been kind of pressured into thinking, well, I freely received, therefore I should freely give. Well, you know what? I hope that this conversation has helped you in reevaluating what your gifting is worth. Yes, there are some people that are called to just sing for free. And if they are singing for free, they're serving in a different type of situation with their gifts that they are given. But if you are called, or if you feel that your talent is to be used in multiple locations and you're to do live, I'll say performances, right? For other situations, and you're being asked, how much do you charge? I hope that you can take what was said here today to help you think about what you can charge for your stuff, to evaluate your worth, because you are worth it. You are worth it. And as was said earlier, if you want to keep giving, like what you have is not for you, it's for giving. And if you want to keep giving, you need to keep replenishing, because you can't give on empty. Make sure that you're filled, not only like filled in a lot of different ways, but make sure the pocketbook is also a little bit filled too, just so that you can keep on giving. You can keep traveling. You can keep, and I love what also was said. There are times when you can even set aside I'll say a tenth, a tithe of your performances that can just be for free. Why not use that as a tactic as well? I mean, there's a lot of rich stuff. So if you've missed a lot of this, then you know what, this episode's going to be on YouTube. Please, 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 please review it, share it, because I know that you are not the only person asking about what to do when you ask what do you
That's
charge?
right.
I know you're not the only
Right.
one. This conversation happens
Right.
everywhere, okay? So
Yeah, it does.
review it,
Yeah.
share it, grab the link, and just blast it everywhere that you
Yeah.
know your
And-
friends are asking about it.
And thank you so much for watching. Those of you who are watching online, appreciate you being here. You're a blessing to us, GMIHub Online. We try to do this every Monday night, so join on and be a part of the group. So make sure you subscribe and like it and hit the notification bell, and just that way you'll be notified next time we put a post up. And the CGM, our website as well. Don't forget that is GMIHub.ca. Check it out for yourself. Find out what we're up to, and don't forget the hub happening. Be a part of that. Go to GMIHub.ca. Email address, and we'll send you that out once a month, and you can be part of our community. We'd love for you guys to do that. And I'm really excited about what's coming up Christmas. So we're going to just go out with a commercial. But before we do, I just want to thank all of our guests. You guys are phenomenal. Thank you, Nicole, Glenn, Kevin, and what's that guy's name? The guy with
We have no
Andrew.
clue.
That's it. The problem is I know Andrew too well. But okay, so it's been a real pleasure having you guys with us tonight. It really is indeed. So I just want to say God bless you. Don't forget, we got this great opportunity for you as an artist to have your song on a compilation project. Here's more about that. God bless you. Bye for now.
GMIHub is accepting new songs for their 2022 Christmas compilation. To find out how to submit your song, go to www.gmihub.ca today. GMI Hub Family Christmas Volume 3. Ho, 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 ho.